One. Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. Today we are going to do what I consider a mid-range gaming PC build in 2026. Yes, we've got the RAM crisis going. We've got SSDs a little bit more expensive, a little bit, LOL. Got 3 times more expensive than they were last year. So what do you build in this environment basically if you want to get into gaming or if you want to upgrade an older PC, you know, that just can't really be upgraded because maybe it's like an i7, you know, 9700K or something like that. What would you build right now? There's a lot of really cool new combo deals. One of those that continuously is out there is basically some version of a micro RTX motherboard. It's typically the ASRock B650M Pro RS. Ryzen 7600X, which Amazon has on right now for $160. We also have Prime Day coming up, obviously. 16 gigabytes of this kit of memory. This is DDR5 6000 CL38, RGB by Team Group. And then we've got what I consider the best value PSU on the market right now for budget to even mid-range builds. This is the Roswell VSB 650, $47 right now. It's C tier rated on the PSU SPL tier list. We've got the B850M-X just because right now I do have the other motherboard that's in the kit. It's not in front of me here. I do have the other motherboard. Oh, it's over there, the B650M Pro RS. It's just in another build right now. So I was originally just going to use that so we could kind of do that same combo, but I'm like, oh no, it's not there. So we're going to go with the B850M-X Wi-Fi as a good substitute. We're going to go with a really cooler, LOL. This is the Cooler Master Hyper 212. This is the Pro version I haven't used yet. I've recommended it based on reviews. I've used a zillion different versions of the Hyper 212 over the last decade. It's essentially the same cooler, except I think they've done some really nice aesthetic stuff, and it's only $18 right now. And then what probably the piece I'm most excited about is the Lian V100R Mini. So if you watch the channel, you know that I have become a big fan of the ATX size version of this case, which I think normally you'd expect to be like $90 to $100, but because RAM and SSD prices are crazy and other PC components aren't selling, they've been forced to slash prices on everything else, which is in part why you still can build in this environment. Even though the RAM prices are higher, you can get combo deals. Even though SSD prices are higher, this case, it probably would cost about, well, actually the ATX version, which would probably cost $90 to $100, you can pick up for $75 right now. Similar discounts on PSUs, motherboards, things like that. So it kind of evens out in some ways. But there's a micro RTX version that Lian came out with a couple months ago, and I've been dying to use this thing. It's only in black right now that I can tell. There's not a white version even on their website. So we're gonna do a black build with that, with the air cooler and the RTX 5070, which I think, you know, given the fact that we'll probably even see some delays with the PS6 and Xbox, whatever the next generation Xbox is, I think 12 gigs of VRAM will probably continue to be fine for 1440p gaming for a while. What ultimately upset the apple cart with 8 gigs of VRAM is the new consoles coming out in 2020. Game developers then took advantage of the fact that those consoles could use up to, I think, 12.5 for the PS6, 12.5 gigabytes, and 13.5 gigabytes for the Xbox, although there's a limitation with the 13. But basically, they could use 12 gigs even at 1080p, and so a lot of developers took advantage of that, and then the PC ports of those games basically were exceeding 8 gigs of VRAM, things like Hogwarts Legacy. So that being said, I think 5070 should be fine, at least for its usable life cycle, although you might, at the end of that usable life cycle, run into some problems. You could just as easily pick up, you know, an RX 9070 as well. But the thing is, I only have a white one of these left, so we're gonna use this in our black build. If it was a white build, I probably would have gone with the 9070, but 5070 is great. And right now it's coming with a free game, which is the 007 game. Any comments, questions? Anybody new to shout out?
Oh, sorry. I was just doing some social media posts to call people in. So I'll take a look at the chat.
All right. So Sarah will take a look at the chat. So what I like to do is just go ahead and jump into the build itself. I'm going to take, if you haven't seen one of our builds before, like there's no right way to build a PC, but there's a lot of wrong ways. So what I like to do is I like to do everything in the motherboard first, right? So we're going to take this off. We don't need the GPU right now. We don't need the PC case. We are going to need the RAM and the SSD. We're going to need the CPU and the cooler. We don't need the PSU. So all this stuff's going to go away. Let's put it away in such a way that I can actually get out of here if I had to.
And while you're doing that, Michael is here.
Michael O'Neill? Mm-hmm. All right. Hey, Michael. Welcome to the stream.
And we got a question from Reluctant Hero. Jason, have you had a chance to try the 250K or 270K for yourself yet?
I have not. I have the 250K and the 270K, and I just ended up buying them. Intel originally offered to send them over, but at the time we were on our vacation in New Zealand. And so it was like, I couldn't even guarantee that I can necessarily grab them off the porch kind of thing. So I decided to just go ahead and buy them. Intel didn't send them over. Gigabyte did send a couple more Z890 motherboards. We had some plans, we had some thoughts, I should say, to possibly do some content around these CPUs. I was more hopeful that you would see things like RAM combo deals with these. Right now, the only RAM combo deal I can find in the US is with a Core Ultra 7, and I think it's the ASRock Z890 ProRS with 32 gigs of RAM. It looks pretty good, $769. It does look pretty good in terms of its overall value. So we might do something with this, but they've done literally nothing with the 250K. What I've heard is that basically this is the same silicon. I already got rid of my 265K box. Anyway, you don't need a visual representation. This is the same silicon as the previous stuff. They've just fixed it basically, and they've fixed it through software. They've fixed it through some other processes. So this stuff, a lot of the components for this have already been manufactured. So what they're trying to do is just get rid of this stuff and then get on to Nova Lake, which is ultimately where they want to go. In the meantime, these do look like good values if you don't care about future upgradability. Would I consider it for a build like this? No, because I can't get a combo deal with like the 250K, and I don't know why. I can't get a combo deal with the 250K or the KF with a motherboard or RAM, which is really the important thing with it, right? And if I can't get a combo deal, then yeah, I can buy this for $200, but I could also get, if I was going to do a la carte, I could also get, this is Ryzen 7500F actually. I don't have a 7600 on hand right now that's not in a build already, and I meant to pull one out, but I didn't. I didn't have time. But this is 7500F that we're going to use. That's what I would do. So to me, the 250K is hard to justify. The 270K might be good for people who do a lot of productivity work. 250K also, if you don't care about gaming, and you don't care about the future upgrade path, this also might make some sense for people who primarily do like productivity stuff. Let's see, let's go 7 and let's go 5. So that's what I would say about the Intel CPUs. The thing that I'm super hopeful about, it seems like Intel's on the right path now. They were just like driving off a cliff. We're no longer driving off a cliff, and that's a bummer because that puts no price pressure on AMD. It puts no innovation pressure on AMD. And so I just feel like, you know, what's going on here? So Intel getting back on track towards Nova Lake, that's exciting to me because I feel like we're going to see some more innovation in the space here in the next six to 12 months. So
we're going to get building here in just a second, but Hiera is here and has a good question.
Okay.
Given the insane RAM prices, if you go with a single stick, does it matter which DIMM slot you use?
Hiera joined us. Hera, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the build or live stream. Who else? Evan Lopez. Who else did we miss here? Evan, welcome. I think those are the only people I have maybe not called out. If I haven't called your name out, just drop it in the chat. You don't have to, by the way. I don't have to call. If you don't want me to call you out, you don't have to. It's absolutely fine. The question again was,
given the insane RAM prices, if you go with a single stick, does it matter which DIMM slot you use?
Typically, if you go with single stick, on this particular motherboard, there's only 2 slots. It only has 2 DIMM slots. But on most of them, they have 4 DIMM slots, even though DDR5 controllers just suck at 4 sticks at high speeds right now. Now, next generation of CPUs promises possibly to get rid of that restriction with better memory controllers. You usually want to use the first slot, but I would check the motherboard manual. It'll tell you. Typically, you use the first slot with only 1 stick, although I know some of them can use the second slot. I would check your motherboard manual, but typically, I haven't done like a one stick build in like 9 billion years, right? So, because why would you do that? Because you lose, even on DDR5, you lose bandwidth, right? If you think about it, because people are like, oh, well, isn't DDR5 dual channel on single channel, blah, blah, blah. The issue is, if you think about it, like this is the maximum amount of DDR5 bandwidth you could have. If you're only going to use one stick, you're going to use less of it. Now, that looks better, right? That little gap there of performance loss looks better than it did on DDR4. DDR4 is like over here, right? That was bad. Definitely didn't want to use one stick on DDR4. So DDR5 improves that because of the packet size and everything. But I believe it's typically the first slot. And I know some people want to do this trick where they're going to buy a 16 gig stick now and they're going to buy the identical 16 gig stick in the future. Yeah, I mathed it out. You save $40 or $50, but you have to suffer through dropped frames and things like that for the next year or two. Just spend the $50, man. Just spend it now. Obviously, you also have to spend the rest of the money for the RAM kit. And my recommendation is combo deal if you can. So, anything else?
Bubba Fett is here.
Bubba Fett, welcome to the stream.
And the gamer
6279, welcome to the stream.
Woo.
Why don't we answer a couple more questions and then we'll jump into it? Because once we get building, this is going to go pretty fast. So
it's really just a chat about what you were saying. So if you want to take a look.
Oh, sure. Okay. If I go for 32 gigs RAM, then it would be fine to go for 1 terabyte SSD. Should I go for 2 terabytes? Will there be a bottleneck? No, you're not going to bottleneck on size of SSD necessarily if you get a 1 terabyte. 1 terabyte is still very, very good in 2026. If you're somebody who has to like have all the things and you do like all this video editing, like, yeah, then you need more space. But I'm talking about for most people who are, especially if you're mostly gaming, I would say 1 terabyte, you can easily get away with 1 terabyte. And again, the good news is that you can go 1 terabyte now, spend $150. I think it's like $270 for 2 terabytes. You do get a discount if you go up, but I don't expect to see these high SSD prices forever. I just don't know. I think with RAM, we're going to see it come down a little sooner because everyone's pumping RAM out. I don't know when we're going to see prices on this stuff come down. So I would go 1 terabyte right now. And again, do you need 32 gigabytes RAM? Depends on what you do. If you're just gaming, no. In the future, will you need it? Yeah, I mean, there's like all those kind of questions. So let's jump into the build. Okay, we're going to build with our Ryzen 7500F. The first thing I like to do, we're going to definitely need, this is a cheaper motherboard, no doubt about it. You know, it's $129 right now for the ASRock B850M-X Wi-Fi version. You can get the non-Wi-Fi version for $99. Is Wi-Fi worth $30? I don't know about that, but I would recommend that you take a look at some of the B650s also if you want to save some money. For instance, I saw today for $124, the MSI B650M-A Wi-Fi is on sale on Amazon. This is a very good motherboard. In fact, it's a better motherboard than this one is. This just has a PCIe Gen 5 GPU slot because it's B850. Well, not because it's B850. They actually upgraded it so that it had it. So we're going to take that stuff out. We got that. And let's just, this is the part where I have to pop the overhead camera on. So let's go get okay, so we have an overhead. Whoops, that is the wrong scene. Close enough. Although we could do that. That's probably more interesting while we do the, okay, so I'm down here in the bottom window. We've got the motherboard here. It wants to go this way. We'll see how that works out. If the camera's not working for folks, just let me know. We'll see what we can do about that. But we got the motherboard here. Let's just punch in a little bit. We're just going to punch in a little bit here.
While you're doing that,
okay.
Real Nizal.
Yeah.
Question for you, Jason. Have you changed your stance on the value of the NVIDIA features considering AMD has been fumbling the ball lately without, like, not having the Pragmata game bundle, NVIDIA being faster in CS?
So with the game bundles, I don't know what AMD's doing because when they had the Crimson Desert game bundle, very popular game. Pragmata also very popular and very highly rated on Steam, both of them. Now, look, not every game's for everybody. So you might be like, I don't care about that game. That's fine. But giving away a $60 game that's both very popular and very highly rated on Steam, that's real value to give away with your GPUs. I just don't know what happened to AMD. They had that. NVIDIA, on the other hand, they started off, it wasn't even Pragmata. I can't remember what they were giving away with it before. Oh, Resident Evil. They gave that, good game. Then they went to Pragmata, really good game. And now they're giving away the 007 Dying Light one. I haven't had a chance to really look into that game because they just started doing it. But yeah, they're giving a lot of value right now. They're not giving you a lot of dollar discounts, but they're giving you those kind of extra items. I just had to finish the rest of my coffee. The other thing is AMD finally decided to upgrade the Radeon RX 6000, 7000 series owners in the future with FSR 4. That to me is just such a major fumble. I don't get it. I absolutely don't get it. And it boggles my mind how Ryzen and Radeon can be in the same company, because they would never have done that with Ryzen. Like, they are so protective of the Ryzen brand. So what we're going to do first, we're going to socket our CPU. And we're just going to unlatch the, oops, ooh, this guy's really in there. We're going to pull him back. Which way is best? That way is best. Okay. Then we take our CPU, and there's always a golden triangle. I don't have my glasses on. My better pair of glasses here. There's always a golden triangle, and it's typically right here. You can't really see it on this one. It's just carved into the metal, so it's very faint. But the triangle will typically always be in the upper left-hand corner on Ryzen AM5 CPUs. We take the CPU out of the clamshell. Don't rub the back of it, obviously, where the pins go. And then we just want to drop this guy in so you can see that it's got one right here. I can't actually see the camera if I have my glasses on. So it's got the triangle. Triangle goes to triangle. The other thing is this here has some notches cut out in it, and you can really only insert this the correct way. So that was the worst one I've ever done. There we go. You just basically drop it in, and I just give it like a tiny little bit of pressure to make sure it's just fully seated there. Drop that on top, like dropping a ton of bricks by accident. I'm just really getting it started today. There we go. And then this guy just pops off. And there we go. CPU is socketed. That's the part that I think freaks people out the most. This little guy here, if you ever want to resell the motherboard, or you're going to change the motherboard for any reason, you're going to want to put this back on. Super easy to do, just clips on the top of it. I typically take it and I put it in the motherboard box. Whee! So I know some people throw it away because they're like, when am I going to use this thing again? Then, of course, we want to get probably the RAM, SSD, and cooler mounted. So I'm actually just going to start by taking off these guys. Now, you could have done this beforehand. There's no 100% correct way to do any of this, like I was saying. There's just a way that I typically do it. I usually get the CPU socketed first on motherboards with the pins in them, because now there's something in there protecting the pins from me. Not that I would be able to do much of it with the cover on, but I'm just paranoid that way, I guess. Why not do it this way? So this entire mechanism is coming off. I think it's coming off. Let's just, what's the mounting mechanism on this guy? Yeah, no, there's no way he uses this. No, there's no way. Sometimes there's some liquid coolers that still use these. So you should always check your cooler first. Says the guy who didn't check the cooler first. Check the manual. Just make sure you're not actually going to use this. I mean, look, you could just screw it back in. It's not that big a deal. But there we go. What I want to do now is I want to get everything else installed. I'm going to get the cooler installed, then we'll do the RAM. There's only 2 DIMM slots on this motherboard. That is actually better for RAM compatibility. We're going to use, for the drive, we're going to use the Silicon Power A60. This is about $150, $160 drive right now for 1 terabyte. This used to be, if you can believe this, 2 years ago, you could pick one of these up for $38 for 1 terabyte. Now, some of that's unfair. Like the reason it was $38 is because we went through a massive silicon shortage, not shortage, in the early pandemic days, and then they overproduced everything as we had that work from home boom, basically. And some of the companies almost went out of business because of that. So, you know, I mean, I don't ever expect these drives to get down to $30 or $40 again for 1 terabyte, at least not soon. But you know, $150 for these drives does kind of hurt. Now, when you're deciding where to put your SSD, if it's Gen 5, you want to obviously put it in the Gen 5 slot. Now, I don't typically recommend Gen 5 NVMe SSDs. Is that going to work? Is that too big? That's too big. Let's get one of the small guys here. This guy. All right. Also, I've linked this screwdriver kit in the video description, along with the Fantech electric screwdriver that I often use. Why did I make that longer? All right, are these captive screws, or are they just gonna fall out on me? This is a pretty cheap motherboard. This is a Gen 3 drive. Oh, we didn't. It would probably help if you unscrewed that all the way. This is a Gen 3 drive, so I'm sure any of these, okay. I'm going to stop worrying about whether or not the screws are, in fact, not captive. There we go. So we're just going to put them in there. I love magnetic parts trays. You can usually pick these up for like $9 or $10. I think I've got one maybe linked in the video description. And then, oh, that's interesting. So typically, you only find the heat pads. I say only. Obviously, that's not the case. Usually, this right here, this is a heat pad. It's going to transfer heat basically to the back of the motherboard, which is great. And you usually only find these on the higher end motherboards that have this and the one on the heatsink itself. So that's kind of nice. Now, actually, this has chips on the back. So what we're going to want to do is peel the plastic off of this. It goes there, and we need to throw that away right away because Mr. Bear likes to eat things like that. Yes. So one thing that we always work on is throwing things away because our cat loves to eat plastic. So then NVMe SSD, super easy installation. You can see the connector, the golden connector. You put it in. It's got a little foot on the bottom, and you just go ahead and you push it in basically until you can't really see the connector. You'll feel tension, and then we want to just align that guy. Then we're going to take the heat sink and we're going to take the plastic off the other side of it. There's just a little bit of stickiness to it. I think it went. Wait. I want it to look like the box. Okay, yeah, down. Okay, good. Also, sometimes the screws are different on one side than the other. So we're going to go push this guy down. This is kind of an inconvenient one. The one nice thing I think about the motherboards that have come out more recently is all the easy build features where you don't have to deal with screws anymore. For instance, okay, I will need my glasses for this. The screw doesn't want to seat, so we're just going to come down here. Always helpful just to take kind of a side look at it. Oh, wait a second. Does this guy have an easy latch on it? Yeah, okay. So, LOL, this one actually has a plastic latch on it, so I should be able to push down. There you go. This is why and there you go. This is why you should wear your glasses, because I'm freaking blind without them. I couldn't see the little easy latch. And now that it's securely in place, I can now line these screw holes up. I think these screws are identical. Sometimes the screws on both sides of the M.2 are actually different, so just kind of be aware when you're unscrewing them, like which side goes into which. Or if you're having a problem, just realize, wonder if I'm using the correct screw here. All right, so this guy is going to go down in here. We don't want to get it too tight just yet until we get the other one seated. It's always a good idea when you're screwing things in to, multiple screws. Don't crank anything down until you have all the screws seated. Because you'll find sometimes when you crank it down, it'll get it in a position where it's makes it almost impossible to seat some screws. So there we go. Our SSD is done. We're going to wipe that off a little bit. We've got our SSD in, and now what we're going to do is we're going to install the cooler. The reason, if I was installing, actually, in what circumstance would I ever install the RAM first? I probably just wouldn't, unless I was just kind of forgetful. I'm like, oh yeah, the cooler. So we're going to go ahead and install the cooler. This is the Hyper 212 Pro. This one might be a little bit more interesting if we switch to camera view. You all can let me know if this is a good view or not. There we go. So this is just a quality. So, you know, I often recommend certain parts, and I have to say, Cooler Master, they typically deliver on the quality of the parts. That hasn't been always the case for every single thing that they've ever done. Why come out? No, but seriously, why don't you want to come out? If I do this, do you want to come out? There's the fan. This guy does not want to come out. Okay, here comes the part where I really don't want to tear up the box. If I was just doing a one-off, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't really care. But because I do want to put it back at some point, there we go. This guy just, oh, I see. It's designed to have the whole thing come out. And because of the footing on it, you actually have to take out the little side panels. Okay. Not my favorite boxing design, Cooler Master, but typically I'm like, such great quality. Not really happy with that engineering choice. But I mean, typically their stuff is really nicely engineered. I don't know if we can see the top. Let me take my glasses off so I can see the screen. Whoop, there we go. No, almost. But like it's got, look at that on the top. I just think that's really, just a really nice touch. You know, just that little bit of, and again, it's just a plate that covers it. Does it increase performance? No. I just think they do a really nice job with their stuff. That's why, even though their coolers have tended to be more expensive, I've recommended like the Halo. This is still one of my favorite coolers. You can get this in black as well. It just looks super nice. So, in fact, I was going to use a Halo cooler. They often go on sale for the same price as this, but right now they're $35. I'm like, I don't want to spend $35 on that. So, right. I was so busy getting out of the box, I forgot. Hey, dude, you got to install the correct brackets. Now, here's the part where people get super intimidated by all this stuff, right? First, they've got the paste, which is fine. They've got a couple extra screws in there. I don't know what for. These brackets here are for attaching the fans. They actually give you 2 extra ones if you want to attach a rear fan. Don't ever buy the coolers unless they're on sale or something or cheaper with 2 fans that are a thinner tower like this, because the second fan basically doesn't do anything. It only takes 1 fan to basically maximize the airflow through this. This back plate here, okay, I was literally just saying what a good job Cooler Master is doing. A couple things I don't like. Other folks go ahead and they give you 2 different little baggies here. One's for Intel. This is an LGA 1700 or 1200 or 1150 5X. This is an Intel one, so we're not going to use that. I do like that they have on the parts themselves. This is kind of hard to see. They've actually, okay, LOL. Not the case. Usually the Ryzen ones are the bent ones, so. Are we going to have to open the manual to see which one to use? Yes, we are. Okay, and I'm just going to guarantee you it's probably not this one. Oh, I might be wrong. Look at that. I think that's it right there. 1000%. Couldn't possibly be this one, right? Yeah, so we're just going to... Are we going to use the manual? No. Why? Because like it's just very obvious to me which one it is. There's only one that fits. It would be nice if they had them bagged separately. Let's take this guy right here.
Rand is here. 3D Chick is here.
Rand, 3D Chick, welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well today. As you can tell, I'm sweating a little bit. It's definitely hot in New Orleans today. Very, very hot. So let's go. I like to clean things up as I go. So I'm going to put this First, I'm going to put this guy back in. Well, let's not. That box is really making me mad. So
Zubair says that cooler is like $7. I think we can forgive the box.
Okay, fine. Fine. Okay, a couple things I like right off the bat. So the screws have springs. They're spring-loaded, so you should not be able to over-tighten them, which is really nice. Other places just give you screws. Now, that being said, these tension screws down into the motherboard, cooler holder is not that big a deal. Oh, I just have the SSD screw head on. Like, why this no work? Why does this not work? Okay, let's use a better. There we go. Yeah, I usually don't just throw things down on the motherboard either. Okay. So let's get this guy in there. Ah, I see what's going on here. Okay. I will look at the manual because I think what you're meant to do here is go ahead and attach these guys first, like this. And then screw it in. And I wonder if they actually just go like this. Yes. All right. Intel or AMD. AMD ENF. Yeah, we already got that part. Okay. Yes, you attach it to the cooler first. You don't actually attach that to, and we screw it in upside down. Okay. Okay, so that's interesting. So this guy is meant to be installed. You install the feet on it first, and we want these to flare out because otherwise we'll never get to the screws. So they need to flare out like that. And there is screws in the bag that came with it here. So this is actually the cooler is now upside down. Can people see the upside down cooler? They can. Okay, so we're going to take the first screw. Take this. We're going to drop the screw. If you don't drop a screw, then you have superpowers that I don't understand. So if you don't make at least 2 mistakes when you're building a PC, then you built it too slow and deliberate. You read too many instruction manuals. But even if you read the instruction manual, it can be a challenge. So we got this one in, and then we get the second screw. Okay. How would I rate this in terms of ease of installation? So far, this was somewhat counterintuitive. But now that I actually looked at the instruction manual, which is probably what you should do always, it makes sense. Most other coolers, what you do is you install the mounting mechanism onto the motherboard itself, and then the cooler screws into the mounting mechanism. This one's just a little different, basically. The other thing I'm going to look at is this offset in any way. Huh. How am I supposed to screw that in with the cooler right on top of it, though? Jeez. You know what? Thermal paste helps. So always remove this little sticker on the bottom if it's got one. Sometimes these coolers, not so much budget tower air coolers, some coolers will come with thermal paste pre-applied. If they do, there'll be a little plastic cover over it. I need the garbage can in a more convenient place. There we go. The reason I have to throw all this stuff away right away is because of Mr. Bear. We'll go ahead and use Cooler Master's CryoFuse. Now, often I use MX4 Arctic paste. The thing I really like is I like to be able to spread the paste. Do you have to spread the paste? No. And what I do with the paste is I usually go like an X. Hopefully people can see this. Break off. Oof, I don't want the paste in there. I feel like this. So some paste is easier to spread than others. I'm just gonna switch back to there we go. So normally I do an X, except the paste doesn't seem to want to stick to the CPU. Even this is really, really viscous paste. Wow. This is gonna be a pain to spread, I can tell already. I don't want to overuse, I might just get rid of this and use the RTX MX4. So some parts of the, look at this stuff. This is like putty. There we go. You know what we're gonna do? F that noise. Where'd my paper towels go? Okay. What would I do if I were actually using this? I would just go ahead and mass it there. I wouldn't necessarily spread it, and then I'd just use the cooler to basically spread it as I mounted the cooler, because the pressure will squeeze it around, but I don't like doing that. So I'm going to use old trusty here, RTX MX4. And watch the difference. Like I don't know if folks saw, like that was like, it was like putty. Like it should go on, like, to me, look at that. Look at, it's grease. It's supposed to be thermal grease. That is way too much. I was so ready with the Cooler Master stuff that I just completely overdid it here. We'll wipe some of this off, but look at that. Look at the difference. You see the difference? RTX MX4 to the rescue again. We'll wipe some of that off. All right, where'd my paper towels go? I usually use shop towels, by the way, but didn't realize we were out, so I'm just using regular paper towels today. You don't have to use shop towels. There we go. We got thermal paste on. It looks great. Sometimes, well, including on this one, so you can see there's like a sway back. Take my glasses off so I can. There's like a sway back on the cooler, so it kind of sways back this way. I typically like to put it so that it's swaying back from the RAM itself. Although I think that's going to be harder to get within.
Zubair says, I'm surprised RTX doesn't do thermal paste sponsorships. Send us paint buckets full of thermal paste.
But did you see the difference? Like one is just, it's like almost like solidified putty. And again, what I would do with that is put it there, and I would make, as you crank the cooler down, it'll spread. It will spread, but it just sticks to everything. It doesn't want to stick to the CPU.
In general, you just need to know that chat is hilarious.
Yes.
You'll go back and read it later and you'll enjoy it, but everyone's doing a great job.
RTX MX4. This is my favorite paste. I mean, I just don't like the stuff that's too viscous. So, and I don't know how this is supposed to work, by the way. Okay, this was not designed very well. Okay, we just want to seat all of them. I just want to get all of them seated here. I'm probably over cranking them a little bit already, but the good news is with the spring-loaded stuff here, it's not as critical that we go 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing. Okay, all right, now we're going to just go opposites. 1, 2, 3. Let's go up here. 1, 2, 3. It's basically a turn and a half because each time's a half turn. 3. Here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Man, I feel like there's a lot of float on this one. Maybe once it gets. Okay, that one's done. Ooh, that one's done. That was 1, 2. It's the angle of the screwdriver because I can't get the screwdriver to go fully down on it. It's not so bad that it's like not allowing me to screw it down. These should all be basically, if you can't, you just want to use 2 to 3 fingers, and we don't want to over crank. I also just don't want to strip the screws there. But there it is. Now we want to go ahead and take, I will say the cord on this fan is really nice. They're not just those cheapy little like plasticky things. This is actually sleeved. So that's nice. We're gonna go ahead and put it this way. And typically what I do is I have the cord come out the back of the case and then go back in the case just to deal with the slack. So what I want is the cord here, which is kind of coming away from the fan. Okay, well. So there's a little plastic hole down here for the cord on the fan. And for whatever reason, it has slipped out. I don't want to cut it with my fingernails by accident. You know, it's fine. It's not going to prevent the fan from going in. Now, sometimes these go on the front, sometimes these go on the back ones. These look like the back ones. No, these look like front ones. In terms of which holes they go into. I want the cord at the bottom always, like this. So when I put it on, the cord's going to go on the bottom. And I always like it as far this way as I can. That way I have, because sometimes you're like, well, I want to use the slack up, but I always find that the cords usually don't have enough slack to go back and then back into the case. So I like to do it this way. Go. Yeah, I mean, they just make a really good product. I mean, this is really good with the sleeved cables. I love that. In fact, we're just going to go ahead and plug this one in. I do not warranty void if removed. There's your warranty right there. It literally says warranty void if removed. Why? It's got a serial number on it. I don't care about that. Okay, what the fan warranty? And then we're just going to go ahead and plug this one in here. For the ARGB, we're going to wait because we're actually going to daisy chain the rest of the ARGB probably. Although I don't know because I haven't used this case before. So, and then what I want to do is I just want, where did my ties go? Oh, under the manual, of course. So I'm going to go ahead, at least for right now, and I'm going to use it. That's the starter one. It doesn't have anything on it. I love these Velcro ties, by the way. You can get a huge pack of them for like 10 bucks if you're building more than one PC. The reason I don't use plastic twist ties isn't just environmental, although that's a good reason, but it's because Mr. Bear eats them or tries to eat them, and that is very bad. That would be a very expensive vet bill. So these he doesn't eat. So we're just going to go ahead and put this on here. These are different ones, aren't they? Okay. And then I don't have my scissors on me right now, do I? I do. A pair of scissors or clippers or something, and we're just going to cut some of the slack off this.
Can I ask you a question while you go?
Yeah.
All right. The Gamer 6279 is building a gaming focused machine, some training locally. And,
AI training?
And they ask for a 360 hertz setup. Is the Ryzen 9 9950X enough, or should I push for something stronger to avoid CPU GPU bottlenecking? And what GPU pairs best without overspending? 5070 Ti, 5080, or 5070?
I mean, the faster your GPU, the more bottlenecks you're going to get. It's going to depend on the games that you're playing. If you're looking for 360 hertz, my inclination, well, you're probably playing mostly like competitive type of games. I'm just making an assumption here. So, because you're not going to get those frame rates with more visually intense, and you really wouldn't want them anyway. Like you'd want the visuals instead. So I would say you probably 9950X. If you're looking for multi-cores, that's a good one. You could go with 9950X 3D. If you don't need the extra cores in the 9950X, then I would say probably come down and go with something like a 7800X 3D, 9800X 3D. And then I would typically look to, you didn't give me a budget, so I'm just making a lot of assumptions here off the top of my head, but I would probably go with, if you're going to do AI stuff, you're probably using NVIDIA for CUDA. And then you're going to want to go with something like, 5070 Ti. Again, I don't know for AI workloads, you're going to have to figure that part out. But for the gaming, a 5070 Ti is very powerful. 5080, given the price difference, is like $300 right now. And you get about 15% uplift. It's not the best price to performance, but if you want more performance, the only other place to go basically is to go to a 5090, and that's even worse. So yeah, I would say typically that kind of setup, I'm looking at least a 7800 X3D, possibly a 9800 X3D. If you need, but I'm thinking that you need 8 cores because of the AI work that you're doing. If I didn't need all 8 cores, I think the 7600 X3D is a great CPU. $229 is really tough to beat. Let's see, there we go. I'm just getting rid of plastic right now from Mr. Bear. But hopefully that's helpful, some helpful direction. I think you're looking at least like a 7800 X3D. I wouldn't look at the older generation 16 core or 12 core X3D parts because they're kind of crap. But I would look at, a 9800 X3D, 9850 X3D, 7800 X3D, and then of course you can look at 9950 X3D. You can look at 9950 X3D too as well if you want. It's kind of that part in particular is just not something that seems like it's worth the extra money. So hope that helps. Other questions? So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to put some things out of the way so that Mr. Bear does not eat them when he emerges from his slumber. He is right here, by the way. Oh, you can't really see that. Okay, so we are going to, now we're going to socket the RAM. I almost forgot about the RAM. There's only 2 DIMM slots on this motherboard. People are like, oh, only 2 DIMM slots, I can't upgrade. DDR5, current memory controllers, they suck. They don't suck. They're just not adequate for doing that. Oh no, do I have to move my... This is kind of a bummer. Now, could I have avoided that? Yes, I could have avoided that. How much could I have avoided it? So that's... frack. You hate it when something like that happens. Okay, so like I was talking about with the sway back, this side is swayed back a little bit more. I thought I had enough clearance for my RAM. I probably do. I'm not looking, visually is the thing that I'm more concerned with, because this will actually work, and it's not actually going to constrain the airflow, because you can see that it cups it right there basically. Maybe that's actually not bad for the RAM either, to get a little bit of airflow. I am a little concerned to make sure that that's not actually pushing the RAM. Kind of is pushing the RAM. I don't like that. Okay, just kidding. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the cooler off and we're going to turn it around.
Problem solving.
Yeah, we're going to take the cooler off and turn it around. Okay, well, that's what happens when you use a part for the first time. So I haven't used this particular B850 before, so what we're going to do is we're just going to back out all this. And again, if you don't make at least 3 mistakes when you're building a gaming PC or building a PC, you are amazing, and you should be teaching me how to do things. So, how could this have been prevented, for instance? I guess I could have put the cooler on there at first with the RAM stick to double check it. And if I was being more cautious and not trying to kind of go quickly through the build, I probably would have done that. So that's all, a little bit of a test fit, so to speak. Probably would have been a good idea. I just don't like, it's putting a little bit of pressure on the RAM stick, and that's just not cool. If it was putting no pressure, I wouldn't mind that it was like just touching the RAM, especially since it wasn't actually doing anything for the airflow. I'm stuck on one. Nope. Oh, it's just the thermal paste. So there's plenty of thermal paste on here. We're just literally going to rotate this guy around. And it is sufficiently spread at this point. And we're just going to go right back down. And that should give us the extra like couple millimeters of clearance that we're looking for. Again, it was just, I could see that it was just putting a little bit of pressure on the RAM stick. sideways pressure. And I don't want to do that. I just think, I mean, I feel like, Linus, I'm just thinking back to a Linus build video where it was him and, oh my gosh, this is the guy's name. He's always in the videos with him. He's float plane. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. Anyway, they're doing a build guide and Linus says, oh, but it's going to lead to more dust buildup over time. And it looks at him and says, you're never going to use this PC. You don't need to worry about cleaning the dust. So could I have just kept going there? Yeah, I could, because am I ever going to use this particular PC like long term? No, we're doing a fun build guide. I have like a stack of PCs over there that we've built. So could have certainly just soldiered on, but something inside of me just won't let me do it. I'm like, no, I don't care if we're just doing a fun build. It has to be perfect. Okay, we're almost there. Okay, we're good. We're good. I am getting a little bit of, I ran 4.5 miles yesterday. That's the longest I've run in a long time. And I'm getting a little bit of, like my left hamstring towards the top is really tightening up on me as I'm standing here. So I'm gonna try not to die. Oh, let's put the fan on first. That's gonna be hard to get. Okay, so we're gonna go right back into this. So all we did is we picked up the cooler, we rotated it, and that's because it's got a little bit of sway that goes back this way, and it's gonna give us a little bit more clearance for the RAM. Now, typically this wouldn't be a big deal on a motherboard with 4 DIMM slots because they would be spaced a little bit better for us. So am I going the right way with this RAM? It's always hard to tell because there's only one correct way to go. Looks like we have succeeded. Looks like sticker towards the cooler. Sticker towards the cooler is the answer here. We're just gonna go ahead and socket this guy. Let's rotate this so people can see. This is probably why I have to put my glasses on. Why are you stuck? What are you stuck on? Okay, let's just back them out. Back up. You never want to overpower anything. It's really tempting sometimes because you're like, why isn't this working? There we go. This guy just does not. That is the correct way to put the RAM in. It's not like I did the other one wrong. Okay, there it goes. It's funny because for folks who watched one of our builds from a couple years ago, I had the dangest time getting the RAM sticks in, and then we booted it and it wouldn't boot and we had a RAM error, and then I undid the RAM and I tipped the motherboard upside down and there was a piece of plastic that fell out of it. And that's what was screwing us up. So, there might have been something physical in the way there. That's kind of interesting, but. Okay, how's the chat going?
Going good. Follow-up question on the NVIDIA value.
Yeah.
Beyond just the game bundles, does NVIDIA have more value if you factor in no path tracing in Pragmata, worse in Crimson Desert, etc.?
I don't think... So I've been saying for a long time, and I noticed Hardware Unboxed did a video on this recently too, that ray tracing seemed to no longer be the future of gaming, and in many ways was basically completely oversold. And it was oversold not because NVIDIA thought it was actually going to benefit gamers, but because they would solidify their market share against AMD, right? Because they had the technical lead in terms of ray tracing. Although AMD eventually did catch up, it took them quite a while to get there. So, I think we've seen developers moving away from ray tracing, mostly because it really just tends to hammer frame rates without adding a lot of extra visual fidelity. I know the ray tracing enthusiasts are going to hate me for saying that. This is just where gamers are. And if you poll people, because we do polls on the channel through community posts, tens of thousands of people vote in these polls over and over again. Only about 15% of people actually want to invest in ray tracing. Are actually willing to spend money for it or lose any frames for it. So that's a challenge, We're going to move this to the side.
You want to switch cameras?
Oh, yeah, let's switch cameras. Thank you. We're just going to go straight to the wide here. Normally I cut the tape on all the boxes before we get started because this is a little boring to watch cutting tape, but here we go. Okay. So if you're somebody, so the short version of my long-winded answer here is, if you're somebody for whom you have to have ray tracing, yeah, NVIDIA is generally going to deliver slightly higher frame rates using normal ray tracing workloads. Okay, so just keynote here. Whenever you're unboxing a case, you see the handles here? I don't know when they're ever going to design a better system, but how they fold into the box. This prevents the case from coming out then. So on both sides, you got to reach in, kind of get the handles coming out of the case. There we go. And now you can lift up and voila. Sarah, I think a piece of styrofoam fell on the ground there. Can you grab that before Lisa eats it? Okay, we are sideways. Okay, so we're just going to go. We can't leave styrofoam on the ground because Lisa will eat it. Fortunately, we've already had to take her to the vet a couple of times because she takes after Mr. Bear and she will just eat everything bad, basically. All right, I'm super excited for this case. I haven't even taken out the box yet. Let's see what we got. So this is the mini version, the micro RTX version of the Lian V100R. It looks very similar to the V100R, except it fits a micro RTX motherboard. It has 320 millimeter fans. Gosh, it's almost as big too. But the difference is the motherboard tray. That's really it, huh? Wow, okay. Otherwise, it's identical. I can see the other one sitting right there, the white one. I just happen to think these cases, once we finish the build in them, are really striking. What are we caught on here? No, we're not caught on anything. It's just a quick. So then what we want to do, we're going to go ahead and get some stuff done on the case before we put the motherboard in. Oh, it's got a GPU bracket, finally. So, let's see this. So right here, this actually has a GPU stand built into it. Deepcool started doing this 3 years ago. Nobody copied them, and I didn't understand why. It was just the smartest thing ever, and it had an adjustable bracket on the back. I just never understood why other people didn't follow suit with that. Well, it looks like finally somebody has. Now, Deepcool obviously can no longer sell stuff in the US because politics and bad stuff that they did, but that was an innovation that I just wondered why nobody else ever copied. What's going on with this little piece of plastic tape? I don't want this. This just prevents. Oh, does this? You can actually no. Huh. I don't know why they've put this here. I find this annoying. Okay, let's get rid of that. This so far, first glance at the case, it just feels identical to the ATX size version of it. So here's all of our tooling, screws. Let's just take that guy out. This goes in the garbage right away. Okay, so here's all of our screws for the case. So what I was talking about here, this bracket, what is that? I don't know how it works exactly. I could look at the manual, but that would. Huh. Is this supposed to go up and down? Well, this is for micro ATX, so the GPU is already going to be pretty low hanging on this. So it looks like I'll have to figure out how this thing works. Oh, there's a bracket right here. Look at that. Can people see what I'm actually doing here? Look at that. Look at that. Oh, what is this one for? Oh, I see. This is the bracket on the other side. This is, you push up against it this way and it sandwiches it. You can take these out if you don't want to do that. I don't know if I like the sandwich part of it. I'm not looking to compress the GPU. Because you don't want to like distort the fans and the shroud and stuff like that. But I love the cable management on the side here is better than I've seen, but I would prefer that they do this on the back side. It's on the side right now. You probably won't see it. I would just prefer that they run the cables along the back side of it. You can always do that. In fact, I think on the white one we did, on the ATX size version, it's got pretty good cable management in the back. This is gonna be our primary channel. I really would love rubber grommet hole covers here. Again, this is a $64 case, so like I might be asking for a little bit too much. I think I know why they didn't though, because this is, these are for back connector motherboards, although then it kind of bumps into your channel here too. So I get why this doesn't have it. Maybe, I don't know if you can do a triangular one. I'm really nitpicking here though, because I have to tell you, I really like this case so far, just looking at it. Does it even have an SSD bay? It doesn't even come with the, thank goodness, I hate removing those things. Does it even come with one? No. It doesn't even come with the drive bay installed. It's possible that it's in the box still. No. Huh. Well, this is the first one I've seen that doesn't actually have a hard drive bay with it. I'm completely fine with that, by the way. Man, the days of hard drives are kind of over. It does look like it's supposed to have space for one. Maybe it just got missed. That is crazy. All right, I love the case so far. So these are all reverse blade fans. How are we dealing with the ARGB? It looks like we're just daisy chaining. I'm fine with daisy chaining. I don't think everything needs a controller that can independently fail, right? The PCB and stuff like that. I like the daisy chain effect. So we've got 4 fans daisy chain. We're also going to put this fan in as well. I don't have, if you wanted to mount a cooler, this looks 360 compatible, but I'm just eyeballing it. You'd probably want to double check. Certainly if you wanted a 240 in here, because a lot of the combo deals keep coming with 240 millimeter all-in-one liquid coolers. This is a great spot for that. Yeah, I just like the case overall quite a bit. So, all right, now for that, let's build. Here's the manual. I'm going to throw that in the garbage. No, just kidding. I will throw that in the box right now. The next thing we want to do is we want to get the PSU cables in. This is mostly to avoid having to, work up here. On this one, I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue because we've got it's really generous clearance up here. In fact, if anything, I think I'm going to probably want to feel like I want to put a couple of fans up here just to block off the cables because it might be a little too visible. So I may do that in the end and just add a couple of additional fans to it. But typically what I would do, bubble wrap, is I go ahead and I'm going to take out, this is a semi-modular PSU. I'm going to take out the PCIe, not the PCIe, the EPS power cables, which are not there. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying not to let that fall. So this is a semi-modular, which means that some of the cables are permanently attached, and that looks like the EPS power cables. Sarah, can you do me a favor? Well, actually, by the time I ask, I could just do it. It's one of those things. There we go. The air stuff here, I just want to get rid of it. It's not going to fit in the trash unless I get the air out of it. Okay, so we're going to take the rest of the PSU. So basically what we're working to do here is 2 things. We want to run the EPS power cables through so we can connect them and then put them in because sometimes that's a pain in the rear. All this is a nice big case. And then the other thing we need to do is we need to make sure before the motherboard goes in that we get the rear I/O shield in because this is a pretty cheap motherboard and it does not have a built-in rear I/O shield. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this part first. We're just going to basically push it through. Should just go pop, pop, pop. Should and then is are 2 different things. Well, that's my microphone. Okay, so we're just going to, maybe so folks at home can see this. See it fall right through. Okay, so we're going to go this way. It's kind of a pain. Oh, I see, I'm stuck. Okay, that one did require a little bit of extra force. Just get both sides seated here. Okay, we're good. So we've got this guy in, so when we install the motherboard, and then I think we're gonna need to, we're gonna run the cable down here, so we're gonna need to take all this wad of cable out. I could be convinced that this is not necessary on this case because it's so nice and big. The fan on this is always going to go towards the intake here. A little bit different than old school ones, so it's going to go in this way. I'm actually not going to put the PSU in just yet. Yeah, I am going to put the PSU in. Does this require any additional power? I don't see any additional like SATA or power. And our GPU is going to use the 12-volt high power cable. So that's what we're going to use for the PCIe cable. So that makes that easy. So what I'm doing now is just basically getting, oh wait, yeah. Wait, is this PSU ATX 3.1? Oh, but it doesn't come with a 12-volt high power cable. Okay. It's just ATX 3.1. All right, so I don't know how many of these cables I'm going to need. For my adapter. You know what we're going to do? We're actually going to skip this step because I feel like this is going to get boring. We'll figure that out in a second. So for right now, what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and get the motherboard installed. I feel like we got plenty of vertical clearance on this motherboard, on this case, so I don't think it's going to be that big of a pain to actually get the EPS power cables plugged in. Yeah, especially since there's no big heat sinks here. Let's go ahead and swap this.
Hey, you know what? Let's actually go full screen overhead for a minute while I switch the battery on the
All right, we're going to go
camera.
full screen overhead. All right.
Just for a minute.
And then we're going to also zoom out just a little bit on the camera. Oops. Okay. There we go. So what we're going to do, you're switching the battery? Mm-hmm. Okay. And we're back.
We didn't lose sound, did we?
We shouldn't lose sound.
Great.
The sound is not, it's not dependent on that, so.
Okay, we did once, remember?
Yeah, well, that's because the scenes weren't set up properly.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our super cheap, I almost feel like I should have used a slightly more expensive and nicer motherboard for this case. So like a lot of cases these days, there's the hole right here, the standoff rather right here, actually has a little piping that comes up on it, and it'll grab the motherboard if you can get the hole centered. There we go. Yeah, like a lot of motherboards with separate rear I/O brackets, it's kind of wanting to like come away a little bit. It's not a big deal. It's just kind of typical kind of budget build, pain in the rear things. So then we're going to take our screws, and we want to use the screws that look like little flying saucers. You think by now I would know what they are called, but I don't. We just take the little flying saucer screws, and there should be, what, 8 of them on this motherboard. So I'm going to start with the back because these are the screws that are always the most problematic.
When you get a second, can you move the case under the overhead a little more?
Under the overhead, which way? Yeah. One thing I can do here is, hang on, let me just duplicate. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to move some stuff around real quick. Color block and the
It's all good. It was just like an inch that was needed.
yeah. Well, what I've done is I've reversed it now, so I think people will be able to see it a lot better if I do it this way.
Great. While you're doing that, 3D Chick asks, question, if I need to clean my system, would you advise taking the GPU out before using air? Any caution?
Not really. It's just air. I mean, if you think about the amount of air that's already gone through your system, it's not that big a deal, just to have it a little bit more high pressure air. If the GPU, for whatever reason, has some of the fins are in an inconvenient space to blow air through to get the dust out, and there's dust in there, I might consider removing it. But generally, with the good, like the one we advertised for Fantic, which, you know, disclosure, it was a sponsored spot, but I used it to clean our PCs. It was really good. A lot of those air dusters work really well. I think Newegg has been comboing a bunch of them, Roswell ones that they have as well. They work really well. Just, and there's no reason to remove the GPU. You don't want to necessarily use a vacuum cleaner because of the static electricity it can build up in the tubing on it. Yeah, I think that you don't necessarily need to remove the GPU for sure. This is one thing I like about ASRock motherboards is you can see this 3.25, maybe you can't, on the BIOS chip itself. That basically is telling you the BIOS that the motherboard came with. Not everybody does that or does it consistently. So I really like that. We'll feed that through in a second. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm screwing in the motherboard. We're going to use our flying saucer screws, which are, and there's about 8 of these in a micro ATX motherboard, 9 in an ATX size. I'm going to start from the back because this one in particular just does not want to seem to line up on me. This is often why we like to do builds in a white case, because black is a little hard to see and to light. Maybe what we need is a downlight here. Let's get like a little clip-on downlight. Okay, we've got 3 in. Just using our little flying saucer screws. Now, do you need every single one of these screws in? Probably you could use 3 and be fine. Maybe 4 on the corners, right? But obviously, if we've got the screws and there's no reason not to do it, there's no benefit of not doing it. I got that one. Here we go. What? They didn't put the standoff in here for a micro ATX motherboard, and this is a micro ATX case. In fact, why are the standoffs on here? Whatever. Okay, so I'm not going to go back and put that standoff in. I don't think it's a big deal. Right here. Well, that's the only standoff. Oh my God. Lian Lee, why have you done this to me? Okay, so the only reason I'm concerned about it is if you put pressure on, well, there's never going to be sideways pressure, but you don't want the things on the back touching any metal. And unfortunately, that's what that standoff is like probably the only one you absolutely need on the bottom here. Okay, demerits to Lian Lee. I don't know why you have a case that's designed for micro ATX motherboards that comes with the standoffs not set up for micro ATX motherboards. It's just mind-boggling, to be quite honest. So now I have to back these screws out. And the only thing I'm worried about here is you don't want any of the contacts on the back of the motherboard to touch metal, right? That's what we call shorting out. And unfortunately, this, here, I got to push it a little bit. Oof, that guy was really in there. Let's see. Was it in there? Am I lying? Am I lying? Am I just blind? No, it's not in the right hole. Yeah, it's not in the right hole. So basically, they put it in the wrong hole. Oh my God. And now I have to use a pair of pliers probably to get it off. That's like borderline error. Like manufacturing error. This is not this. You don't want to use needle nose for this if you can avoid it. So it's just literally in the wrong hole. It just needs to be in this hole. Unless I am doing something really wrong. Like I never assume that I am like 1000% right on this stuff. Like I make mistakes just like everybody else. But man, that is, yeah, they have it in the wrong hole. Ooh, we're gonna get a strongly worded letter on that one. Here we go. They literally just had the standoff screwed in the wrong hole. They had it screwed in the hole for a, chances that I can find that screw again, about 7%. Okay, there it is. Yeah, they had it screwed into the wrong hole, man. So I just naively assumed, of course, that the standoff was screwed, the standoffs were screwed in properly, but as we just found out, they were not. And the only reason I wanted this one is because there's literally nothing else to prevent the motherboard from bending in and those contacts on the back from touching the case, which would short them. And that's the only thing you're ever really worried about with a motherboard. That's why you don't want to, if there's a loose screw, you definitely got to go get that loose screw because you don't want it shorting between the motherboard and the metal in the case. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been welcome to Electrical Shorts 101. Okay, we're just gonna speed through this part here. Oh, aha, that was faster than I thought it was gonna be. Wow, that is so crazy. I'm a little miffed. All right, there we go. It's probably would have been a better idea just to double check. Just never assume that the manufacturers know what they're doing. All right. Any questions?
No, everyone's just pretty fascinated. But if anyone does have any questions or if I've missed one, feel free to throw them in the chat.
Yeah. All right, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here we go. Oh, I think this, is this board a little shorter than others? Okay. That's it with this one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our cables, we're going to run them to the other side. Now again, in tighter cases, I would have done this as I put the motherboard in. But this one I realized it's just got plenty of room to do this. I could even go through this gap here. Huh. I'm starting to think about this motherboard. Is this actually slightly smaller than MATX? It could be. I don't think so though. Okay, so then we got that one in. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get the cables going here. So we probably can get rid of the overhead altogether. I'll include the overhead in case anyone's interested. Okay, so now we're going to do some cable work. We're going to take these cables out. I would really prefer just to take the ones out I need, but they've just kind of wadded them all up, so we're just going to do what we got to do. So what I like to do is get some of the cables run, and then we'll put the PSU in. Okay, this is for the fan. Here's the header for the fan, which, can we plug that in the bottom? We can. We're just going to go ahead and do that then. I'm going to find an empty, wait, is this front panel? No, this is just a fan header for the case fans that are all daisy chained together. If I was moving a little more slowly, I probably would have evaluated whether or not I needed to take all the cables out or not. But seeing as we're going to do cable management off camera, I'm not as worried about it. Okay, so then we've got the fans plugged in for that. Is there another fan header? Nope. Okay, so these are all the front panel I/O separated. That's nice. ARGB is separate. That is also nice. This is where we want to plug in. We're going to find where that goes on the, it's right there. Is that it? This is where your glasses come in handy. How's the visual look? So we're going to take this ARGB. We're going to run this through. It looks like ARGB right there. Got two of them. So can we just go through? There we go. There's ARGB. Is that the only one? I like to plug those in the bottom if I can. There's one over here. That would require a lot of additional cable management to get over there. So now this is what we're going to do. Okay, let's just... okay, and then we've got the ARGB for... we've got the ARGB now for the... I usually do the fans last, but since they're already kind of pre-wired, this is for the cooler. I take the cap off this one, and we're going to daisy chain this into the rest of them. There we go. Sometimes these tend to come apart. If they do, like, you can just use like duct tape or something like that. Any kind of electrical tape will be fine too. So we're going to put that in there. Just going to kind of wad things up. Now I'm going to take these fan headers. Okay, now we're going to take all of our motherboard cables. So this is our USB 2.0 header. They're not all going to the same place, so we want to go ahead and unscrew them or untangle them. And I throw those away immediately, not because you shouldn't reuse them, but because Mr. Bear will eat them. So anything Mr. Bear will eat, oh, okay, interesting, that I can either go under the motherboard or I can go up through. I'm going up through this hole here. This is with the HC audio. HC audio has a knockout. One of these is blank. So just make sure you line up the blank. Wait, is that front panel? That's HC audio. I have not lined up the hole, have I? I have not. It's usually label up. Most of these are usually label up. Okay. All right, we're going to take that one out. There we go. What else do we have to run here? We've got the front panel. Now, nowadays, these cases are coming with a front panel all in one nice big plug like this, as opposed to all those tiny little wires. So this is like your power button, your reset. This is going to want to go to this part of the motherboard over here. Let's get that out of there. So your front panel is always down here. Is that F panel? Yeah. Okay. Also has a knockout on it, so it's got a blank. Usually label up, and it's going to go right there. Okay, next up we've got, so take this little plastic, let's put that in there actually. That was the cover for the ARGB. So this is our USB 2.0 header. Where is it's right here. So this is going to want to go and follow everything up and then go in. It's kind of rotated around. There we go. So we're going to go up and in. And then it's right here next to the RAM. I'm just going to plug that guy in. Now again, I usually do the memory the PSU before doing some of this, but it looks, I have to say, they've just done a really good job with the cable management, so I'm going to just get this one done. Huh. Why is this, why don't you want to stay in there? Okay. So we're going to do the same thing with this one, which is on the side. Now, sometimes these plug in sideways in some of the newer motherboards. This is going to go standard. And we just took out this guy, so let's just put him in again. This guy does not want to seem to stay in there, so. People wondering why pre-built companies use hot glue on some of this stuff, because some of these sometimes, there we go. It should be universal, but for some reason it wanted to go that particular way. Okay. I think those are all of our major cables. Let's get the PSU installed. So let's check the GPU, because we don't have a 12-volt high power cable for this one. I think the 750 watt version comes with a, so we're going to need two 8-pins to use the adapter. So we need two PCIe cables for a 5070. Now this is a C-tier rated PSU. The B-tier rated one is not much more than this, like $20 more for the 750. For the Roswell VMG, which is a B-tier rated unit. We used that in our build last month. I just wanted to use the C-tier one. Okay, so we're going to need two 8-pins for our adapter here, since we don't have a 12-volt high power cable. I'm an idiot. 12-volt high power cable is already connected. I was expecting this to be a pluggable one. So we're going to take this cable and do that with it, because we've got our 12-volt high power cable right here. So we don't need anything other than what's in here, which is super nice. Appreciate that. Here's our EPS power cables. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go, remember, fan side down, because here's our intake. If you use a case where this is solid, then it has to go up, right? It would then have to inhale air, which is old school, out of the case itself, from the case itself. But 99% of PSUs these days, we're stuck on this little guy. We're stuck on something. There we go. Now we use the screws with like it feels like a bolt on top. And again, do I know the name of the screw? No. Will I ever learn the name of the screw? No. So we're just going to screw the PSU in. There's some vibration pads down there. If you're having a hard time getting the PSU in, you're probably bumping into them. You want to go, the PSU wants to sit on top of them. And those are basically just for vibration for the fan, so that when the fan kicks on, if there's any vibration from the fan, your whole case doesn't make a noise. It's just a little shock absorber, not electrical shock, obviously. All right, we're just going to screw this one in. People always ask me, like, is it hard to build a gaming PC? Like, actually assembling the parts themselves, relatively easy. Getting it set up, relatively easy. The challenge comes when something doesn't work, right? That's the real challenge. Like, in terms of like, how hard was this? Now I have a lot of experience doing it. So, but if you did this at home, probably you would take about twice as long as I did. You'd probably make some additional mistakes, have to back them out. That's fine though. I'm like, this is a one-time thing. The big challenge will always come when you have it actually built. So the next thing we want to do, now that we got the PSU in, we're going to run the motherboard power cables. I guess it's going to want to run this way. And normally, the reason I usually run this one first is because it usually likes to be the bottom one. But I have to say, I like on Roswell's, nowadays the PSUs, rather than like one big wad, it used to be like just this big wad of cable. Now they have them all kind of individually sleeved, or individually braided rather. That's what the word I'm looking for. And as a result, it's like nice and flat. I like that. Because now it's easier to bend. Obviously you don't want to bend it too much, but it's easier to bend. when you do need to bend it. Okay, so this just came in this way. And then we're going to go around, clip to the outside. Okay. Click, click. Always like to hear clicks when I do that kind of thing. And this one's, I'm just routing it through the cable management thing here. Just for the time being. Okay, 12 volt high power cable we'll deal with in a second. When you do the GPU, I usually route the EPS kind of along this channel up and out. So that's what we're going to do here. We only need one EPS, so I'm actually going to use I'm not going to use the daisy chained one. I'm going to use, excuse me, I'm going to use the one on the end of the daisy chain because I only need one of them. Just note that these often will also, if you have one with only 4 pins to it, or you have one that with additional, this will actually just pull apart and you get 2 4-pins. So we're going to keep it together. We're going to run it through the top here. So rotate back around. I just want to make sure people can see what I'm doing. Sarah, people can see this, right? Okay, so this one, we're just going to rotate around. I pull it apart. Don't pull it apart if you don't have to. It was just for demonstration purposes. There we go. And like I said, if, I'm stuck.
You okay?
My mic got stuck. It got caught on the case. So because look how much room there is on this case. And a lot of it is because I could remove that top panel as well. I got plenty of room to be able to plug this in. In cases that don't have this much room, right? Even just like a 1/2 inch less, and my hand would not be able to get in there very well. And that's why I typically like to attach this before I seat the motherboard. So, okay, this.
Jason,
yeah.
What has been your genuine favorite case to build in?
What is my favorite? It depends on like what the goal of the build is. Like, cause I have really loved certain budget cases, but when I say that, I'm like, part of the fun is knowing that this case was so freaking cheap and I didn't have to like spend a lot of money on it. And then I've used cases that are kind of more expensive, and I like probably the finished product of those. Obviously, you're going to spend $120 on a case like the Antec C5. It's going to look better than the Bitphoenix Nova Mesh, which was one of my favorite cases. It looks like, for whatever reason, Bitphoenix is not selling that anymore. I suspect that's because of the cough Middle East war right now, and the cost to ship it is no longer viable, basically. By the way, if you're noticing RAM prices go up, that probably also has something to do with it. So I've really liked like budget cases like the Bitphoenix Nova Mesh because it's just such a simple case. It feels so clean and easy to build in. And then I love cases like this where the finished product, especially the ATX size one, I'm sure if you watch the channel, you'll watch the channel. You notice that, I always say that because I'm like, oh wait, this is a member live stream. Of course they watch the channel, duh. If you look at it, it's just so clean. It is so clean. I think the V100 was one of my favorite ones. Although I have to say the Landcool 216 is still one of my all-time favorites because all this comes apart. Like the top comes off, and like literally the entire case is modular. The Corsair's frame 4000 RS, another good case like that. So okay, well, we've got all the cables in basically. I'm not going to do cable management right now. I'm just going to shove the cables kind of in because we're going to lay the case down. Why don't I just go ahead and get this one in to where I want it. Oh, I should have done that before I did all this. Well, whatever. It's going to be, I'm going to redo all the cables anyway, so. Okay. Maybe I can just pin it there. There we go. Okay. Oops, let's go this way. Okay, so this is how our build's coming together. Normally I don't slide it across the table on purpose, but I kind of just want to get... We're going to go ahead and at this point, the only thing left to do really is put the GPU in. This is a 2-fan model, RTX 5070. It was designed to be one of the MSRP models. I got it for MSRP when they launched. Then they all sold out and you couldn't get it for a while for that. Yeah, most of the GPUs actually that we use, we buy, by the way. There's a handful that we get sent to us, especially for NVIDIA GPUs, because NVIDIA has shadow banned us for a long time. This is the 5070, pretty simple 2-fan. There's a 3-fan model where they basically just bolt on another fan. It's actually one of their best-selling models, I've heard, for MSI. The thing about that is, this is all plastic. Hear that? That's plastic. This, also plastic, because it's cheap. I would actually prefer that it have no back plate if it's going to be plastic, because plastic is a heat insulator. That means this is basically like putting a blanket on your the back of your GPU. I don't know why you want to do that, but it does look really nice. But it's plasticky. Oh, let's knock out. In this case, it looks like we actually need to do the top one. So this is going to be a 2-slot, but it's a 2-slot model. It's not an OC. I don't think it's an OC. No, it's just, okay. I think we're going to go 1 and 2 here. Usually on an ATX size case, you go 2 and 3 for the slots. But I think the way they've designed this is to not have the extra, not have an extra slot that you don't do anything with. This motherboard's super cheap. We're just going to push down on that little clip there. It felt about as cheap as you can make it. Okay, and we're down on the front side. Oh, we're caught in the back. So this is, I don't know how well people can see this. This is like where things get broken, I've seen in builds. You see how we've caught ourselves right here? The back end of the GPU bracket has actually come out of the case and caught on here. People will start now pressing very hard, trying to get the GPU in, thinking there's something wrong. There is something wrong. It's that you've overshot that little hole, and what you need to do is just back it out, make sure that that's going in the correct way. There we go. But people will like crank down on that thing, and that's one way you can break things. And there we go. It didn't even click. It's probably because it's a super cheap motherboard. We're going to go ahead and put the bracket holders back in. And I was correct. It was actually slots 1 and 2 in this case. Again, in ATX size cases, often it's slots 2 and 3. And the top one stays in. But I think this one's kind of purpose built to not have that. Okay. See, that fits in there really nicely. We can just go ahead and plug this in. Does this even need a bracket for a 2-fan card? Probably not. Like, does it really need a bracket? I don't think so. Oh, I see the power plug's upside down. Okay. That makes everything a little bit more complicated. Okay, so I'm gonna have to untwist this cable. Okay, well, or we're gonna go that. Yeah, we gotta go the other way. Clip on that side. Now, obviously, these cables are problematic. Oh my gosh, seeing things makes it so much easier to do them. There we go. Yeah, it's amazing how that works. I will never stop fighting that I have to wear glasses when I do stuff like this. All right. Trying to get the cable. There we go. Now, we don't want to bend it within the first 35 millimeters, but obviously there's the glass. Okay, we just want to make sure it's nice and seated. This is our build so far. Now we'll come back and I'll do some additional cable management of it. But this is what we got going. Let's see if we can get it to boot. What are these? Oh, those are like little parts trays things. That's one thing that Lian I think does really well is their little parts boxes that come with their cases. Okay, let's just move some stuff real quick. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna run. We're gonna do a quick. Just go. Okay. All right. All right. Let's try to see if we can get it booted. Okay. Dang, that's actually not bad on the first pass. Kind of proud of the cable management. Now, what I typically do, because nobody wants to watch me sit here and do cable management, is I typically just get it to a building place, a place where we can like try and post it, and then I'll come back and I'll spend 20 to 30 minutes just cable managing it to the point where I feel like it's like, I really like the way it looks. Okay, here's our portable monitor. Let's get the keyboard and the mouse, which I have buried. Okay. Now, when you do this, I recommend on first boot that you use the HDMI cable. DisplayPort, maybe they fixed this over the years, but I just have long memories of DisplayPort being a little weird on first boot sometimes, where I couldn't figure out why it didn't want to post, why I didn't want to post, couldn't get a video signal out of it. And then I switched to the HDMI cable, and then it was fine. It was fine the whole time. It's just like, for whatever reason, it didn't want to do DisplayPort. And then I loaded Windows onto it and everything, and then it was fine from then on out. We're using DisplayPort. So,
Jason, you want to get rid of the top down?
Get rid of the top down. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so I want everyone to be able to see the screen. Yeah, what? In fact, why don't I just do this? Nobody wants to see the mouse and the keyboard. Nobody cares about the mouse and the keyboard. Okay, let's plug this guy in. Okay. BIOS 3.25 should work fine with the Ryzen 7500F. Oh, we need power for the monitor. I think this cable is good enough to power the monitor. And then we, of course, need the HDMI cable for it. Most of these will come with one HDMI and 2 to 3, typically 3, but like the 9060 XT comes with 2 HDMI 2.1s. I didn't see if the monitor came on.
Not yet.
It didn't come on. Yeah, come on. Okay. All right, let's turn the power supply on, obviously. And then where's the power buttons down here? Ooh, something's happening. CPU and RAM lights are on. Hopefully that turns off in a second. RAM. No, I did buy this CPU from a third-party seller, so I'm like, I hope it's not a fake 7500F. No, we look like we're good.
Oh, there we go.
There it is.
Hooray!
Yeah, B850M.X, 7500F, 16 gigs of memory. It's booting at DDR5 4800, obviously, because we don't have XMP or Expo enabled. There it is. CPU cooler's on, right? I just couldn't see it. Yeah. There it is. How long did that take us? Wow. That took us about an hour and 40 minutes with a lot of my blabbing. That's not bad. Obviously, if I was just building this, I could build a little faster, but that's probably good build time for anybody else out there, 2 to 3 hours, maybe 4. Let me know what you think of the build. I think this is going to be a nice one. 5070's got enough power for it. The 7500F is a really good value. And again, like a Newegg combo with this, with the 7600X, would be even slightly better. And a cheapy B650 motherboard with 16 gigs of RAM, and that's really all you need to get started. And the great thing about this is, a couple years time, you drop whenever they release the 9600X3D or whatever, or a 9800X3D would be fine on this motherboard. The VRMs are not amazing, but they're fine for an 8-core CPU. Love it. I like the cooler too. Let's see the ARGB on the cooler. I wasn't able to see it. Wow. And I have to say, again, I just want to give Cooler Master some props because I know their stuff is high quality and they're competing now at that lower price point along with like Thermalright and stuff. And when I say high quality, I don't just mean performance. I mean like the feel of the physical components, the latch system actually with the springs on it. They've just done a lot of things right with it. The sleeved cables are super nice touch to it. So, and then I like this case a lot, but I'm going to put the micro ATX version of it up next to it and see. I almost feel like you get an ATX size motherboard in here. You really couldn't, obviously, but I'm being facetious, but it just seems like, yeah, it not that much smaller than the ATX size one, but again, I'm really happy with the case. So any questions?
I think we covered everything. If anybody has any last minute questions, shout them out. Zubair says that this is 4 out of 10 because it needs more 5090s and LCDs.
More 5090s and LCDs here. Well, we need to do a build with this one, with this 5090. And not like anyone offered to send me one. We had to buy that, by the way. And we bought that one when it went to MSRP at $19.99. Yeah. Oh, thank you all for joining us. Hope you had a good time. We'll catch you on the next one. And we'll catch you on the next one. That was take 2. And we pause for the stream delay. And then I click this little button here that says